Hello, my fine internet friends, by which I mean the 5 Facebook friends and 20 plus family members who are obligated to watch this. Welcome to What Would Betty Say, where I perform tasks while musing about how my grandma Betty might have judged my life decisions if she were still alive. As my grandma taught me how to sew, I thought I'd start with my attempts at quilting. I came up with this design when my close friends started reproducing. At the time, I did not have a sewing machine. Grandma actually got me this dumbed-down version when I was a kid, but I have no idea what happened to it. I'm sure she'd appreciate my lack of care for her heartfelt gift. Anyways, these are a few of the ones I've done over the last years. If they look impressive, don't be fooled. We are about to see the many ways I didn't follow in my grandma's footsteps. This is the blanket I'm working on now. Grandma taught me to work with patterns when sewing. Butterick is a proud influencer in many of her projects throughout her life. So it seemed required that I create paper patterns to be used for these blankets. However, I'm guessing if she'd been around for this genius plan, she might have stared at these pieces and told me it would be impossible to put these shapes together effectively. It took me multiple blankets before I realized my mistake. Then I came across this awesome semi-plastic grid stuff. Everything for graph paper if you haven't noticed yet. Side note, this compels me to relate this to my grandma's female line's insistence. They are not good at math, something I've seen no evidence of my entire life. Side note, my mom's dad, Paul, Betty's husband, was a self-taught manufacturing and software engineer, which, if we're going with the math skills being quote-unquote genetic, makes her and my aunt's claims even weaker. Sorry, love you! Wait, what was I talking about? Right, fabulous semi-plastic grid stuff. So I broke my design into easier shapes and used the grid stuff to cut them out. This is great for the weird shapes and continued use, but I'm sure I induced another of many face palms, as my grandma points out. Why would you need square and rectangular pieces when you can easily measure and cut 4 right angles? Come to think of it, my grandma was more of a roll your eyes, click your tongue, and sigh type. I do wonder what Grandma would think of certain popular phrases we use now, like facepalm or spilling tea or clapback. Some part of me hopes she'd love that the English language had evolved to a place that would fit so nicely with her sarcasm. Nowadays, I use double-sided tape and tiny bits of fabric to procrastinate on doing the hard stuff, but mostly for my goldfish-level memory, where I obsess over which fabric should be used for each shape, but promptly forget the next day. So after 3 minutes of mostly tangents, I'm actually going to work on the blanket. Let me begin by showing you these abnormal and rarely used tools in an effort to infantilize you and pad my runtime. And if you're wondering, yes, my grandma would have been horrified by the state of my scissors. But I have 3 kids, so naturally I cannot find my fabric scissors. Of course, she also had 3 kids, and her home and her kids' homes always looked clean, so yeah. A great example of my laziness and grandma instruction deviations shines through in the half-hearted ironing, but later I will obsess over the position of my ruler. Hey, there's that tool that easily makes squares and rectangles without grid thingies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 inches. If you don't get that joke, I'm sorry your childhood was so sad. Yep, that's me obsessing again. Now watch me struggle with my inappropriate scissors. My grandma cannot even roll over right now because most of my family sent things with her when we laid her to rest. Apropos to this video, I put the Scarlett O'Hara dress she made me one Halloween. She had serious skills, people. A little more lazy ironing, and I present to you a piece of cloth thinner than the previous piece. Here are some things I managed to stab myself with. A lot. Since these blankets are all for little uns, I know, I'm not going to show you the full name because, minors. I put the kiddos' names at the top of all the quilts, hence me showing myself pinning a piece of paper to fabric. Sorry for the disheartening news for my obligation viewers, but there will be another video where I show you why I pinned paper to cloth and the many ways I can injure myself doing simple tasks. In the meantime, I leave you to ponder, what would Betty say?